CNN's Ryan Young and Paula Reed are following the story for us. Ryan, first to you, what more do we know about this investigation?
Well, we know it's developing at this point. Our Evan Perez was able to confirm that suspect is dead. I've been talking to some local folks on the ground there who've been telling me this is an evolving situation. In fact, right now there is a perimeter set up around that suspect's truck. So they're trying to figure out exactly where he came from. But it was around 3:15 this morning where police say that this suspect took an F-150 and started trying to intentionally hit people who were out there. We know 10 people are dead, more than 30 injured. And as you can imagine, we do have some new video into CNN that is very tough to look at. We have blurred some of the images here, but you can see some of the carnage that was left behind. Obviously, some of this video is spreading over the internet with bodies laying out there, and you can just feel for the people who were involved in this. At some point, that suspect did then start shooting at officers. 2 officers were shot. We're told they are in stable condition. Outside of that, now we start building from the investigative points, just in terms of trying to figure out why the suspect targeted this area. But take a listen to this eyewitness talk about what was going on.
Dude came through with a truck and hit by 4 people and shot by 4 people. It was about 8 to 12.
You say you saw him got out and shoot?
Nah, he was in a car. He didn't get out. He already hit him.
Now, we know the Sugar Bowl is played later on tonight. There's tons of tourists in town. You have the New Year's celebration. You put on top of that, this is the French Quarter. They did find IEDs, so there have been several clearing signs as they were been trying to do the improvised explosives. They put them in the bomb containment center and then try to blow them up on scene there. But at the same time, you've had people who could not return back to their hotels, people questioning what should they do next. They've shutting down several streets around the area as this investigation continues. We know there's a massive presence of officers down there as they start this investigation. But again, it was 3:15 this morning when this truck went around barricades and started to try to drive over people. So many questions at this point as we continue to talk to law enforcement. There will be another 11 o'clock news conference, but we should take a listen to the chief who gave us this information a little earlier this morning. Take a listen.
It did involve a man driving a pickup truck down Bourbon Street at a very fast pace, and it was very intentional behavior. This man was trying to run over as many people as he possibly could.
Now, Superintendent Kirkpatrick couldn't even get to the hospital yet to talk to her officers. She was leaving that news conference to go talk to the officers who had been shot after this. Right now, we're not sure exactly how this ended with the suspects. Hopefully we'll get those new details. And Pam, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Ryan, stay with us. Paula, to bring you in, what more do we know about the suspect and the vehicle used in this?
Well, so far, we don't know a lot of information. We've been in touch with federal law enforcement sources. As Ryan noted, our colleague Evan Perez is told by one law enforcement official that the suspect is dead. And indications are, though, that this suspect acted intentionally, according to this federal law enforcement official. And that is something that local officials actually indicated earlier in their initial press conference. They said that the driver's actions were, quote, very intentional. Now we know that the FBI and local officials are conducting searches of the vehicle as they seek to learn more about a potential motive here. We just got word, Pamela, that the Attorney General Merrick Garland has been briefed on this situation, and the FBI is obviously investigating. Now, as part of that investigation, they are looking at possible explosive devices used at the scene. As they said in the briefing earlier, there were improvised explosive devices that were found, and they're working to confirm if they were viable devices or not. So this is a quickly evolving investigation, and it requires cooperation between federal authorities and those on the ground to determine exactly why this happened.
And Paula, I know that you're well versed in this as a lawyer and have covered the Justice Department for a while. I think people found it confusing when you had the mayor come out essentially and say this is an act of terrorism, and then the FBI come out right off the bat and say this is not an act of terrorism. Help us understand the discrepancy there and why that might be.
Yeah, I think it's a little confusing holiday, conflicting messaging here, but this is not good to come out and give these kind of confusing messages. People need to understand, especially at the federal level, that terrorism actually has a legal definition, and it's much more narrow than people realize, because there were some concerns that if you label certain acts terrorism, or if you use that too broadly, it could conflict with some constitutional rights, and particularly the First Amendment right. Again, it's very confusing. It's sort of an esoteric argument, but when people think of terrorism, they think of something like this. But when it comes to the legal definition, this is why you don't see a lot of cases charged as quote unquote terrorism. They're charged with, using an explosive device. They're charged with other crimes because that's what is on the books. Those are the laws on the books. So I think the legal definitions, particularly the differences between what you might see at a local level versus the federal level, that's why there is this confusion over whether or not this was terrorism. I think most people would agree that this was terrorizing, but when it comes to the technical legalities, that's, I think, why we're getting these conflicting messages about whether this was quote unquote terrorism.
Right. And what is the concern ahead of the Sugar Bowl tonight?
Yeah,
with this?
Look, I'm the last person to report publicly on sports, but I think that this is going to be on the minds of everyone there. That is a massive event. There's always a massive security operation for anything that happens in a large stadium in this country or abroad, be it a concert, be it a sporting event. And something like this, there's clearly going to be a heightened concern and likely heightened precautions to try to prevent anything like this from happening again. Though it does appear the signals that we're getting from law enforcement, they don't appear to be indicating that this is part of a wider plot.
All right. Thank you so much, Paula Reed, Ryan Young. We appreciate it. And let's bring in CNN national security analyst Juliette Kayyem and retired FBI special agent Bobby Chacon. Bobby, to start with you, we were just talking about this with Paula, that the New Orleans mayor is calling this a terrorist attack. An FBI agent told reporters that it wasn't, that there's obviously this messaging issue here. But bottom line, this is an act that caused terror in New Orleans among these revelers.
Yes, and I think what Paula highlights is that we don't have a comprehensive domestic terrorism law, and that's why the charges at the local level, and as a lawyer myself, I've lectured on this, the charges themselves have to be kind of piecemealed together. A lot of us call for a comprehensive domestic terrorism law, as we have on the international terrorism side, but we just don't have it on the domestic terrorism side. So it's really kind of like Paula said, an esoteric legal argument. But certainly the SAC of the FBI could have been more clear and said, look, we don't know if this is terrorism yet. We are looking into it, instead of declaring it not a terrorism event in contradiction of the police chief who just said it was. So I think they need to get on the same page. The first presser wasn't that great. Hopefully the second one coming up in a little while, they'll get on the same page. There is no problem legally, as a lawyer, I can tell her that there's no problem with saying we're looking into whether it's a terrorist event or not, especially in the early hours. Everybody would understand that kind of language. And I think that the legal argument of whether it's going to meet the legal standards of the charges, that's not what people need to hear and not what people need to know about at this point. The public needs to be confident in the fact that the FBI is working with its local partners to get to the bottom of this, to see whether it was a terrorist act, and how it's going to be charged later on is not as of great concern.
Right. I mean, I've sadly covered too many tragedies like this, and it struck me because normally you don't come right out of the gate and label it terrorist attack or not. Juliette, you say we're looking into all possibilities because it's so early, you don't really know. And there were these explosive devices. This suspect shot at police, hit 2 police officers, 10 people are killed, more than 30 in the hospital. I mean, this is horrific, Juliette. How do you see this?
Yeah, I just think the mayor made a mistake. Let's just, in some ways move on. It has to be clarified. I do not think she should have come out. You actually saw the people behind her sort of flinch. She was speaking as a politician and as someone who governs the city, that this was terrorizing. It was terrible. It was terror for those there. But we are now in the investigation and prosecution stage. Look, we are, Evan is reporting that the suspect is dead. We don't know what kind of case follows. So putting that aside, and we'll just put that aside, these things should be tighter. That it wasn't. It's it's early in the morning. It's New Year's Eve. We understand that. Now focusing on the future. One is intent. That is going to matter. It's going to matter to the families. It's going to matter if he had any accomplices. This looks. We don't know what the IED devices are. Is there a federal nexus that can go forward. The second is a big event tonight. The Sugar Bowl is huge. Lots of people will be watching. My personal assessment, doing lots of sports security, is it goes on. This is it should go on. The police department has lots of resources to draw on. It can protect the investigation and also draw on other local and state resources to protect people going to the bowl. But that this is the way that big cities have to work. Unfortunately, you want to provide what might even be security theater at this stage. Lots and lots of law enforcement presence to make the city and people attending understand that they are safe, to stop anyone who might want to copycat at this stage. And then you let the investigation and the mourning continue simultaneously. It's just the nature of how these things happen, is that you have both these horrible incidences and then you have to prepare for the next big event. And this is what we've seen in prior instances as well.